Hi, I'm in Italy right now, but it's raining. But look at this view. How do I get started with programming? That's a question I have gotten countless times on Instagram. I think the biggest problem is that a lot of people feel very intimidated by the field, and a lot of people are very disoriented and don't really know where to start or what to do, even though there are so many resources. So today I'm going to break down into simple steps the, in my opinion, easiest and most rewarding way to start learning programming. This is of course just my personal opinion, and there are a bunch of different ways you can learn programming, but this is the, in my eyes, best way, and a lot of people agree with me. But there of course isn't just one definitive way you can learn programming. There are countless ways. This is just my personal opinion. You just need to find the right path for yourself that keeps you motivated. Okay, so enough talk, now let's actually get started. So the first question a lot of people struggle with is, which programming language should I learn first? The question shouldn't be, which programming language do I learn first? The question should be, what am I interested in building? Depending on what field you're interested in, the programming language you should learn first is different. So you should ask yourself, what do I want to make? And then learn the programming language that is needed to build that. First, you should figure out what technology you're interested in. Is it web development, mobile development? Do you want to make games? Do you want to do robotics? There are so many different areas. For the start, you should pick one area that interests you and then learn the underlying language that is needed for that technology. So if you want to make Android apps, you should learn Java. If you want to make iOS apps, you should start learning Swift. If you want to make websites, you should learn HTML and then transition into CSS and JavaScript. If you don't really know what technology is interesting to you and you don't really know what field you want to work in, maybe just start learning Java. It's the first language that I learned, the first real language that I learned, and it's a great basis, and from there on out you can learn a lot of different languages. The syntax is pretty easy to pick up, and it's also object-oriented, as a lot of other languages are also. So if you learn a bit of Java, it's easy to transition into any other field. So second, if you know what language you want to learn, now you need to learn the basics. You can learn the basics by either following a tutorial or a course along the lines of how do I get started with Java, or what I personally find more beneficial is doing a short course on Codecademy. They're not sponsoring this video, but it's a pretty great site for beginners. They have interactive courses that consist of step-by-step tasks. They do a great job of teaching you the basics of any programming language that they offer. They have a free account option, so you don't even need to pay anything to learn the basics. And again, I'm not sponsored by them, but it's always the first site that I recommend to beginners. So next, I would recommend to transition into building small projects as soon as possible. It's that feeling of, I really want to get this to work, that really keeps you going, and it's that victorious feeling of something that you built finally working that really keeps you motivated. You just don't get that experience when you follow an instructor in some boring course for hours and it feels like school. You're just sitting there and you're not really taking in the information and making your own experiences. So just start building basic applications as soon as possible, like a simple tic-tac-toe game. And whenever you hit a roadblock and don't know how to continue, just Google it. That's one of the most important things, and I'm going to touch on that later on. Another important thing to keep in mind is, if you feel bored by what you're working on or don't feel motivated, try something new. Maybe just try a new programming language. Learn something about a field you know very little about. Or one of my favorites, you can do coding challenges on Code Wars. Again, I'm not sponsored by them, but they make a really cool product. Basically, they give you short challenges that are adapted to your experience level and that train your problem-solving brain. The other option, if you don't feel motivated, is to just take a break. There's no benefit to working yourself to exhaustion and burning out and losing interest in coding altogether. Here are a few things that you should keep in mind when you're starting out. First, when you start out, it's important not to be intimidated. You don't need to know the syntax or certain code snippets by heart. You can just Google everything you don't know whenever you're facing a problem. That's, in my eyes, the most important thing when you're starting out. Just Google everything you don't know. There's a very high chance that you're not the first person to experience that certain problem. Stack Overflow is your best friend in times like these. And whenever you don't find a solution, you can always ask a question on Stack Overflow and Reddit. There are so many helpful people out there. I've been programming off and on for years, and I'm still googling the most basic things all the time. Most of the programming experience you gather over the years can be boiled down to two things. First, knowing the theory and theoretical concepts behind the technologies you're working on. And second, knowing why it's not working. Okay, to sum up, ask yourself what technology are you interested in, what do you want to build? And then learn the language that is needed behind that technology. Then learn the basics of that programming language and learn how to set up the dev environment. Then start building little applications as soon as possible and progress to bigger and more complicated projects over time. And most importantly, Google everything you don't know. Okay, I just came home. We were on our way to go hiking, but in the car it started raining and we were in the middle of a thunderstorm, so that didn't really work out. But I had a great idea last night for another segment of this video. On my Instagram account, in my story, I asked, what would you tell a beginner that is about to start learning coding? Several people actually said the same thing along the lines of stop wasting your time with some bad tutorials or courses, just actually start building projects. Stop watching videos, reading articles, or whatever you're doing, just start actually programming. That is 100% where you will gather the most experience. Jelena Codes says, don't give up and you need patience. Earlier in this video I actually only talked about how to get started, but staying at the ball is so important. You need to have a lot of patience. A lot of things won't work out of the box. Consistency is definitely the key to getting better. It works best if you make coding a daily habit. Set yourself a goal of coding at least an hour or half an hour a day. What @dev.danny says also fits to this topic. It's okay to make mistakes. What's not okay is not being consistent and open to learning the process. Panda Developer says you should do 20% of theory and 80% of practice. I agree with this for a lot of things, but there are some areas where this isn't really possible. In some fields it is really hard to strike a balance like that because there is just so much theory. Theory can also be really fun. As an example, data structures or algorithms or automata theory. There are so many different things that actually teach you a lot about the theory behind programming. This isn't anything you need to learn at the start, but it's definitely something worth checking out further down the line. Understanding theoretical concepts is super important. So yeah, I guess that's basically it now. I hope you learned something in this video and that you could take something away to start your coding journey. If you know anybody who wants to learn coding or just started learning, you can send them this video and I'm almost certain they can take something useful away from this video. If you are new to my channel, definitely check out the first episode of the developer vlog. It's a pretty cool video and I'm pretty proud of it. So much work went into that. So if you're interested in more coding videos, definitely check out that video. Also, to get notified of new videos, you should subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell icon down below. Also, make sure to check out my Instagram, FUTC.coding and FUTC.photography. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next video. Bye bye.